Up next, in the spirit of, kind of reality television, completely unscripted, I'm excited to introduce a panel in kind of a new format. So today we're going to be playing Think Outside the Box. And I will tell you that our panelists, they were chosen not because necessarily they are deep technologists, but because they have strong opinions. And so we are going to challenge each other on stage. And any of you who have been to all the other panel discussions probably sense that maybe the panelists were given the questions in advance. That is not the case here. So what's going to happen inside each of these boxes is a mystery question. And so they will be hearing it at the same time all of you are hearing it. And whoever gets the question has to answer it. And then the other three of us on stage get to attack them in true Shark Tank fashion, right? We just get to criticize the hell out of whatever they say. And so we'll see what happens. Hopefully chaos ensues. But I think out of the conversation we have, hopefully there's going to be some interesting ideas that spark innovation for the audience. Because after all, if we can serve the needs of the three people in the companies they work for that are on stage joining me, then we're all going to win together. So let me introduce our contestants, not our panelists, our contestants for the day. First up, we have industry legend. She formed what I think is the first retail media network in the United States at Target, later went and built a juggernaut at Albertsons, and in January joined Uber, where she is going to build something spectacular. You know her, I know her, it's Kristi Argyilan. Hello, Kristi. Also with us, if you've ever gone shopping for pretty much anything, you've gone to Walgreens. And so representing Walgreens is Subramanian. And then finally, a person who really needs no introduction because she has charisma that can fill this entire room. She could sell you a bag of donuts that you've already eaten, and she has been successful at so many companies. And so when she joined Best Buy to help build their retail media network and run all of their ad stuff, you just know that Best Buy is a company whose stock you want to own. It's Lisa Valentino. All right, Kristi, Abby.
I don't eat donuts, by the way. I'm kidding.
Lisa, you know the rules.
Okay, sorry.
5 boxes. You don't know the questions. And in a wrestling match earlier off stage, Abby won, and so he gets to pick the first mystery box.
Number 3.
Number 3. Jill has the box. All right. How's that for drama, huh? Like, heck, I mean, I heard you guys are really smart and you spun up Shark Tank and all the demographics. I think there's a new game show. I think that Mark guy, he ought to be calling us.
Seriously.
Yeah. All right, Abby, here's your question. Retail media and commerce evolution. Retail media is quickly becoming a cornerstone of digital advertising. But as retailers monetize their data, some brands worry about lack of transparency and rising costs. Will retail media networks ultimately complement or cannibalize traditional ad spend? And before you answer, here's the question that I posed to the other 3 of us up here. After Abby speaks, we get to criticize anything he says. But I also want you to think, Lisa's like, why did I sign up for this? But I also want you to think about, for the audience, what can we do as an industry to change and accelerate retail media networks? So,
I love the question, Scott. Retail media networks ultimately complement the traditional media ad spend. And it's very true in our case within Walgreens too. And when you think about what we have done in this space, we are a health and well-being destination with needed enough convenience and offering healthy, better alternatives for our customers, patients, and for the community. And if you really think about what retail media networks have to offer, you got to think about the incremental ROAS that we get to deliver for the dollars that we collect from the brands, right? And so, and the measurement has evolved into a place where there's a ton of clarity out there, right? IAB standards have come along, and I'm sure, being a fanboy moment for Kristi here, she has been a major change agent in the industry, standardizing measurements and whatnot.
Kristi, he's only saying that because he doesn't want you to criticize him. So I'm setting that up.
Smart.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a ton of credibility there. And look, cost, there's nothing wrong in paying for the cost if there is actually the return on investment that you're seeing, right? And I'm a very strong believer of that. And that's how we are looking at it internally as well.
So what I would add to that, and kudos to you, because we've had a couple of minutes to sit here and think about the question while you were answering on the fly, so good answer. The thing that I would add to that, and I think this is especially in the spirit of ramp up and collaboration, the data that retailers and commerce media companies have to bring to the marketing ecosystem is incredibly valuable. It's first-party data, as I like to say, real people doing real things. So I don't know if it's, I don't think it's either complement or cannibalize. I think it's actually augment. And when you take our audiences that we all have to bring to the market and you apply it across a broader media ecosystem, we can now actually help some very traditional media be far more performant and to actually prove that a business outcome came in addition to all of the what we know historically in terms of traditional media, in terms of driving brand impression. We also can drive business, and we can prove that when we work with some of the traditional companies. So that's what I would add to what you were saying, Abhi. You're
nodding, Lisa.
Well, I mean, I want to play the game, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I can't.
There is a vote at the end of this to see who has the best answers, and they're crowned the winner.
I can't disagree with anything that was said. It's absolutely right. I do think there is I think we're at this like really important time, because I was so blown away when I joined Best Buy I've spent 20 years in traditional and digital media. I had no idea the wealth of data that a retail media company sits on top of, right? So when I looked at our audience graph at Best Buy, we see over 80% of the US population in our graph. We can tie back 93% of all transactions back to a customer ID. That's better than any traditional media company I've ever been in. I don't think the marketplace truly understands the opportunity that retail media presents. I can't tell you how many meetings in the last 30 days I've been in with CMOs that said, I had no idea. So that's an opportunity, but it's also a warning, because I worry that if we keep retail media inside of a corner, it's not going to deliver like the full benefit and proposition. And I think there's a lot of inertia in the market to keep it contained. And our job is to literally like let it out and let it do what it does best, because frankly, it can check every box. It can check the performance box, but the reach and frequency box, the work, the collaboration that we're gonna do. Imagine if Uber, Best Buy, and Walgreens come together in a data collaboration space. Imagine that opportunity. Oh, and then you wanna put NBC in there. Put Netflix in there. That is what we're gonna keep delivering, I think, for this industry.
Yeah, I'm a bad host. I mean, listen, I put you guys on the spot. I didn't tell you the questions. I wrote a bad question. And I'll tell you why I wrote a bad question is because this is set up as like retail media networks versus other things.
Right.
But what I'm hearing you saying, and I think is true for everybody in the audience, is like retail media networks are everything.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, all three of you are developing an audience currency that is far more powerful than any audience currency you can buy. So if I want to hit like consumer electronics enthusiasts who are looking for a cell phone, I have a pretty good sense of who has that audience that can potentially be extended off platform. Likewise, if I'm looking coming up to Easter and I want to sell candy, I have a pretty good sense because who is in the market to buy candies. I mean, I heard last night you guys had a huge Valentine's Day.
Absolutely.
So, all right.
But
Good.
the marketplace is still buying. The majority of billions of dollars are still being spent on 18 to 49-year-old demos.
Right.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't
Right.
you take the data set of a Walgreens and apply that to your television, your streaming, your social? So we kind of have to keep being on these stages and talk about breaking things, right?
Amen.
Yeah.
All right. We got to move on to the next question, but in one sentence only, what would you instruct the audience to do to be more successful with retail media networks? Kristi, we'll start with you.
I would say don't think of them as just media. Think of them and really start to parse apart what the assets are that retail media has to bring to the marketplace and think about it differently. I think we're so quick to try to put it in a box that we're familiar with that we're missing the opportunity.
Lisa?
I would say it's as much about experiences as it is data.
All right. And Abby?
I totally compliment what Lisa and Kristi is talking about. It's more than just a retail media network. It's the connecting tissue. It's understanding the consumer experiences, the depth possible. And we have a role to play sitting next to the walled gardens. Right?
All right.
And
You got to stop there. Only one sentence.
right there.
All right. You get the honor of choosing who gets to pick the next box.
Kristi.
Oh,
All right, Kristi. There are 4 boxes left.
yes, there
Which
are.
will you choose?
I think I'll choose number 4.
Number 4. Jill, what do we have? It's a new car. No,
That would be
It's
okay.
not. It's not. I'm sorry. All right. Your category is data collaboration in clean rooms. Clean rooms promise privacy-safe data collaboration, but many marketers still struggle with scalability and actionable insights. What's the biggest barrier preventing clean rooms from becoming a standard tool in every advertiser's stack, and how can our industry solve it?
From my experiences, I don't know that there's a biggest versus big, multiple. And I think that it starts, you have to almost go all the way back to, is there a data strategy that exists within the company that you're operating in? And once you understand what that data strategy is, then you start to understand how to maintain data, how to work with privacy, how to work with legal, and get a lot of those setup barriers taken out of the equation so that it's easy to execute multiple clean rooms. So I think that it's on maybe the biggest barriers is this clump of, it's the preparation that needs to be done at the very foundational level so that you can move very freely and pivot very freely from one use case to another use case to a third use case, that all of the different possibilities that exist within clean rooms. There's a lot of fear around, if you have a clean room, that must mean that you're sharing your data. And that's not what the intent of clean rooms are. In fact, they take all of the risk out of it. To have a clean room where it can be set up so that I know that all of the wishes of our customers, of our riders, of our eaters, are reflected in the setup in terms of how they want to be built into audiences and be given offers and information. To know that that's set up early and at the beginning is an incredibly important piece. And then to also know that the paperwork is taken care of, because there's a big legal requirement to get clean rooms opened up, and there's a very easy way to standardize that and have that sitting at the ready.
Lisa, I can tell by your body language that you violently disagree with what Kristi just said.
How could she say that? You know, no, I violently agree. I do think, look, this isn't a PSA for LiveRamp, but I do think Howe was probably one of the smartest moves that you guys made. We did a lot of work with Howe in my former life. We stood up about 100 clean rooms, and I think the path to accelerating that was everything Kristi just said, which was you have to operationalize it. It's not that we can't do business with every clean room solution out there, but you kind of have to pick your place. And I do think the big pivot for the market is when you can start moving insights into activation. And so that ability to not only learn and understand common audiences, audience segmentation, but then buy those segments programmatically. Like, to me, that was a tipping point that many are taking advantage of today. So I actually think we're on our way to acceleration. And the more that companies like yours, Scott, can operationalize it and make it easier, I do think the education curve is happening at speed, but that's also a big part of it. Like, clients need to understand the who, what, where, how. And then I feel like once we get past that, and we can get them stood up, it moves.
If I were the judge, that's a winning answer. You won. You win the car. Abby, I think out there in the audience, there are folks from P&G, there are folks from Unilever, there are folks from Kraft. They all could partner with you and take advantage of your clean room. What's going to be the reason that all of them want to work with you, and how are you going to make it simple?
Just think about how many different places that our data just goes into, right? And both Kristi and Lisa talked a lot about that. And just think about the skill sets and the capabilities that you need to have to deal with that kind of data at scale as well, right? And so the opportunity to partner with someone like LiveRamp, right? And we are in advanced stages of that conversation right now, as you can imagine, is going to make that easier for us, right? And we have built a very robust feedback mechanism in terms of the insights to activation framework, all the way from defining what the strategy is, getting down to the audience level, activation, then knowing what happened, did that really drive the incremental sales? And then how do you do the follow-up and the follow-through to be able to do a lot of this post-campaign analytics? That's what we are hyper-focused on.
Yep.
And we do believe this level of clarity with having a very collaborative clean room environment is going to allow us to meet the brands where they are and make it all seamless for them.
Another big important body of work is the work that the IAB is doing in terms of standardizing clean rooms. And I applaud LiveRamp for leaning into that, because in addition to standardizing measurement and ad units and all of the other foundational elements of a retail media network, also having the IAB start to publish these standardized the standards for clean rooms is a really big unlock for the industry. And, LiveRamp plays a huge role in that. So
David
kudos
Cohen
to
is
you.
out there somewhere. Thank you, David Cohen, and the IAB. Lisa,
Yes.
there are only 3 boxes left. 1, 2, or 5?
Okay, I will take 5 for $600.
All right.
Not a new car?
I'll give you some of those bills that I was carrying last night. $600. All right.
All in pieces.
Thank you, Jill. The programmatic shift.
Okay.
CTV is one of the fastest growing ad channels, but measurement and frequency capping are still major challenges. What is the key to unlocking CTV's full potential?
That's interesting. I don't like that question. No, it's fine. It's a good question. I think the identity piece is, at least for us at Best Buy, I think there's a lot to figure out when audiences leave our walls. So there's a couple of things around CTV that we're thinking about. One is we have 900 stores across the country. Every store the screen is the store. We talk a lot about activating screens. I think, Kristi, in your past lives, that was a part of it. The video screen for a Best Buy, if you think about it, is the store. How do we start to unlock that potential? There's a lot of work that has to go into sort of enabling the technology to really get the full potential of CTV in that sort of frame. The other piece that I think ties back to the last question that we just talked about is, how do we think about measurement as it relates to both CTV and social? How do we think about the role that CTV plays in a retail sort of ecosystem? It gets back to the first question, which was about, it's not just about performance. CTV is incredible. I spent 10 years selling CTV in my last role. CTV is probably one of the most powerful mechanisms to drive reach and frequency, to drive consideration, to drive those upper funnel metrics. When you pair that with the lower funnel components of retail media, you can start to see how those work together. So I do think whether it's doing it inside of clean rooms or doing more measurement around sort of these media components working together is going to not only benefit retail media, but it's going to benefit CTV. Because CTV, I think what they're trying to figure out, at least what we were trying to figure out, was what is the impact that CTV has on sales? And I was waving a banner in my last company saying, we can do it. CTV doesn't do that.
Yeah.
It doesn't drive ROAS the way retail media can deliver. I can tell you that for 2,000 campaigns we ran last year, we had a 3x return on ad spend on average. I could never say that at a traditional media company. However, what they're great at is filling the upper funnel that drives the lower funnel. So I do think connecting the measurement, we're doing it, but we're not doing it at scale. And so is that the work that we're going to do, Scott, with LiveRamp? Is that the work that we're going to do inside of clean rooms? I think we've got to be showcasing the power of that in bigger ways.
I think that's smart, and I'll add a perspective, which is, I wonder whether a year or two from now, we will think CTV is playing in the upper funnel. If that's the only place it's playing, then as an industry, we might have missed the mark. Because what I hear you saying is measurement, but also the audience extension. We can make CTV look a lot more programmatic in terms of the targeting ability than what we were getting off, say, Nielsen 10 years ago.
So here's an interesting example for one of the really big CE clients. They do a tremendous amount of business with us, and it's all about driving ROAS. but they didn't brief Best Buy for their Super Bowl creative, right? And that was a lot of TV and CTV.
Yeah.
The opportunity, like looking back at that, to connect those two ecosystems as the lead up, the moment, and the wind down could have been, and hopefully next year that will change, right?
What I hear
But
you saying is it's all connected.
it's all connected.
Amen. All right. They're going to give me 90 seconds more on the clock.
Oh, Lord.
And we're going to ask one question. You each get 30 seconds. If you had $1 billion, how would you spend it on anything in our industry? Because you think that is the next big thing. And Kristi, we will start with you.
Oh, Lord. Just $1 billion?
Just $1 billion.
Just $1 billion. I think that I would probably go more toward a platform that would enable the buying process, the frequency capping process, the dynamic creative generation, and things that are more AI enabled, so that we can take a lot of the human manpower that's sitting in our,
optimization.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you can optimize more often because you're not waiting for humans to do it. So I'd go platform that is AI enabled and really automates more of the end-to-end process.
All right, that's answer one. And audience, remember, because there's going to be an audience vote at the end as to which answer is the best. Abby?
I would build on what Kristi said. I've been reading a lot about agentic AI. It's quite disruptive. I mean, just to throw a stat out there for the audience, there's a huge, staggering market cap numbers that are being thrown out there. 2.5 billion as of 24, and it's going to go up to like 70 billion in agentic AI adoption, which is quite fascinating, and in a labor market like this, right? I mean, look at how modernized we are, and retail media networks have come a long way to the evolution that Kristi was talking about. And I do believe there are several use cases that we can pick on and meaningfully deliver the efficiencies. One thing that really comes top of my mind is like an insights-driven media plan, right? So how cool would that be if you have an agentic AI come in and think about a media plan that is a lot more intentional, right? And there's a lot of perception-driven if you think about it, right? I mean, there's a lot of, there is a desire to get it right. But a lot of these perceptions come in and complicate the outcomes. So it's important for us to kind of really learn and understand. And I do believe agentic AI is going to play a very pivotal role. So I would absolutely invest that $1 billion that you're talking about.
Brian O'Kelly, you just won $1 billion.
Exactly.
Talk to Abby afterwards. Lisa.
I would acquire LiveRamp.
I love that.
We got a winner. No vote required.
And a good deal.
All right.
And
you heard it here first. LiveRamp is now a division of Best Buy. Just happens just like that.
Just like that on this stage after Damon.
Because
Okay.
who doesn't want to spend February in Minneapolis? Next year, Ramp Up is in Minneapolis.
Something tells me you would want more than $1 billion. But anyway, I would, we're launching a 3P marketplace in July. I would put $1 billion into building the most sophisticated marketplace for 3P sellers in the specialty retail, consumer electronics category. Because if we build, Amazon sort of owns the marketplace. They're not going to be the only owners of great marketplaces in the future. And frankly, if we get that right, it fuels every part of the ecosystem, the ads business, the measurement business, the experience, right, from a consumer standpoint. So that's what we would do. If we didn't get the LiveRamp deal done,
all right,
I would do that.
My conclusion is the real winners here are the audience.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing your insights with us today.